All right, let's talk about a word that every finance pro, especially you CMA candidates, needs to know inside and out. That word is leverage. Now, it's this simple idea, really, that a small push can create a huge result. But how does that actually work inside a company? Well, let's break it down.
So to get us started, I want you to think about this question. You've got two totally different things, right? On one side, you have the physical, get your hands dirty, operational side of a business, all the assets that actually make the product. And on the other, you have the financial structure, the money that pays for it all. What in the world is the common thread? Yep, the answer is leverage. You can think of it as the gearbox of a company. It's what translates the power from its operations directly into its financial performance. It is the absolutely critical link between making stuff and making money. Think about a simple seesaw. You know, that pivot point in the middle, the fulcrum. That's kind of like a fixed cost in a business. A small push on one end of the seesaw can create a huge lift on the other. Well, in business, that small push is just a change in your sales. That fixed cost is the fulcrum, and that huge lift, that's a magnified change in your profits.
Okay, so let's start right on the factory floor. The first type of leverage we're going to talk about is all about the physical side of the business. It's called operating leverage. So, at its heart, operating leverage comes from a company's fixed operating costs. These are the expenses you have to pay every single month, no matter how much you sell. This leverage is what measures just how much your operating income, your EBITDA, is going to jump or fall when your sales change.
So, what are these fixed costs we're talking about? Well, picture a company that builds electric cars. They've got this massive factory, right? Billions of machinery. Every single month, they have to pay for that machinery's depreciation, the property taxes, the rent. It doesn't matter if they sell one car or a million. That heavy, unchanging cost structure, that's the source of their operating leverage. Now, we actually measure this with a ratio called the degree of operating leverage, or DOL for short. The formula is pretty cool because it connects the very top of the income statement to the middle. It's basically just asking, for every 1% change we see in our sales, what's the resulting percentage change in our operating income, our EBIT? Now, using an example straight from our source material, the calculation gives us a DOL of 0.7. So what does that actually mean? It means a 1% increase in sales leads to a 0.7% increase in operating profit. This company is actually pretty stable. Its profits are less volatile than its sales. And this gets to the crucial point here, this big trade-off. A high DOL means your profits can absolutely explode upwards when your sales are booming. But it also means that if your sales dip, your profits can just evaporate because you still have to cover all those fixed costs. It's classic high-risk, high-reward game.
Okay, so let's move from the factory floor over to the other side of our opening question, the bank loan. This brings us right to financial leverage.
Financial leverage comes from fixed financing costs. And the big one here, the main one, is interest expense on debt. So instead of magnifying sales, financial leverage measures how a change in your operating income gets magnified into an even bigger change in your bottom line, your net income. The source is really simple: debt. Picture a real estate developer who funded a massive project almost entirely with bank loans. Every single month, they have this huge fixed interest payment they have to make. And that payment, it doesn't care if the project is profitable yet. That fixed payment is what creates the financial leverage. And yep, you guessed it, we measure this with the degree of financial leverage, or DFL. Now notice how this formula picks up right where the DOL left off. It connects the middle of the income statement, EBIT, all the way down to the very bottom, net income. It's like the second stage of magnification.
So, in our example, this company has a DFL of 0.87. What's the story here? Well, for every 1% change in its operating income, the net income for shareholders changes by 0.87%. In this case, the debt is actually acting as a bit of a brake, making the bottom line less volatile than the operating line.
And just like operating leverage, DFL is all about a crucial trade-off. Using debt can be awesome for amplifying returns to shareholders because you're generating profits with someone else's money. But if your earnings fall, that fixed interest payment becomes an anchor and it threatens to pull the entire company under.
Okay, now that we've seen both of them, let's put them side by side. This is really where the distinction becomes crystal clear.
And this just lays it all out perfectly, doesn't it? Operating leverage, that comes from operating decisions, like building a factory. Financial leverage, that comes from financing decisions, like taking out a loan. DOL measures the impact on the top half of your income statement, from sales down to EBIT.
Then DFL takes over and measures the impact on the bottom half, from EBIT down to net income. It's really just a journey down the P&L statement.
Now, for all you CMA candidates out there, let's talk about where people get tripped up on the exam. Because trust me, it's not just about the math. This is such a key success tip. The exam isn't just going to ask you to calculate DOL or DFL. No, it's going to ask you to explain what happens to these ratios if a company, say, automates a factory, which increases its fixed costs, or if it pays down its debt. You have to understand the why behind the numbers.
And speaking of the numbers, here is the most common mechanical mistake people make. They flip the formulas upside down. Just remember the flow down the income statement, okay? For DOL, the change in the lower item, EBIT, goes on top of the change in the higher item, sales. The same logic holds for DFL. The change in net income goes on top of the change in EBIT. Whatever you do, don't get these backwards.
Finally, let's tie all of this together and see the combined power and risk of both types of leverage working together.
Think of it like a chain reaction. It all starts with a little change in sales. Then, operating leverage kicks in and turns that into a bigger change in operating profit. And then financial leverage takes over and magnifies that change one more time, resulting in an even bigger swing in the final net income that goes to the shareholders.
And that brings us to the most important takeaway of all. At the end of the day, leverage is just an amplifier. It doesn't know the difference between good news and bad news. It just makes everything bigger. It can create incredible wealth when things are going right, but it demands really careful management because it magnifies risk just as powerfully.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about for your studies. If a company is already in a risky, high fixed cost kind of business, does it make sense for them to also take on a whole lot of debt? Or should they try to balance out that high operating risk with a more conservative, low-risk financing structure? The answer to that question is really at the heart of managing a company's total risk.